3.3c, this is Algebra 1. We're talking about the addition and multiplication property of equality and using them together. And now we're going to use them together with parentheses. So just really quick, just to remind you, the addition property of equality says that if a and b equal the same thing, then we can add c to either one of them and it'll equal the same thing. And it says for the multiplication property of equality, if a and b equal the same thing, we can multiply a and b to the same thing and get an equivalent equation. See? All right, so sometimes parentheses are necessary to solve an equation, and sometimes parentheses are not necessary. They're optional. Now in this one, 3x plus 1, this, using the distributive property, we distribute the 3 to the x plus the 3 to the 1, and we get 3x plus 3 times 1, don't we? Because we distributed it to this x, used the plus sign, and then the 1. So that means we would have 3x plus 3. But if we pulled these parentheses away, we would have 3x plus 1, not 3x plus 3. So they are not equivalent. See that? So in this case, we need the parentheses to be able to distribute that 3. It's very important. Look at this one. We've got 2 and then the x is in parentheses. Well, that means 2 times x. And we know that when a variable is next to the coefficient in front of it, that it means to multiply. So we really don't need these parentheses, do we? Now look at this one. We've got 6 and then a minus x, the inverse of x in parentheses. That does not equal the same thing as 6 and then taking x away. This is 6 multiplied to the inverse of x, isn't it? To the negative x. Very, very big difference, okay? So you got to be careful with these parentheses, all right? And remember to check this video's description for links to similar and helpful videos if you need them, okay? So if I think anything's confusing, like the distributive property or something like that, that link will be in the description. So equations with parentheses can be solved by first using the distributive property. Now, before we did the addition property of equality, before we did the multiplication property of equality, now we're going to distribute first and then use those, okay? So we distribute the 2 into the parentheses. In this one, we've got 2 times 3a plus 2 times 4, don't we? We've got 2 times 3a in parentheses plus 2 times 4 is going to equal that 44. So now this becomes 6a plus 8 equals 44. Now we can use that addition property of equality to create a 0 pair. And the plus 8 minus 8 creates our 0 pair right here, doesn't it? And now all we've got, because these canceled themselves out, all we've got is 6a equals 36. Now we can use the multiplication property of equality to make the invisible 1. We multiply by the reciprocal of 6, which can be written as 6 over 1, so its reciprocal is 1/6. We flip it around, and this becomes 6 over 6a, and this becomes 36 over 6a, and when we simplify it, here's our buddy the invisible 1 that this became, that we don't need to write, and we get a equals 6 when we simplify, see? And as we said before, we can, when we have whole numbers like 6a equals 36, we can divide by the coefficient to save ourselves some time and not have to do all this reciprocal stuff. So if we've got 6a equals 36, we can just divide both sides by this 6 to get that a alone. 6 divided by 6 is 1. That's our buddy the invisible 1. And 36 divided by 6 is 6. Very, very quick. Okay, helps you skip a couple steps. But what happens when we've got a fraction that needs to be distributed? Okay, well, we just distribute it just as we would with a whole number. We get half x plus half times 4, see? Half x plus half times 4. It gets distributed to both with the plus sign in the middle. Now we do the math, and this half x plus this half times 4, we can actually put this over a 1 and just multiply straight across. Can't we get 4 over 2? So we have half x plus 4 over 2 equals 5. We need to simplify this. 4 over 2 is a 2. Now we have half x plus 2 equals 5. Now we can do that addition property of equality to create a 0 pair. And we do. Plus 2 minus 2 creates our buddy, our our zero pair, and we end up with just half x equals 3 because 5 take away 2 is 3. All right, so now we have half x equals 3. Now we move up over here, and we can use the multiplication property of equality to create that invisible 1 by multiplying by the reciprocal of a half. See? We flip around the numerator and denominator to get the reciprocal. See? And the reciprocal of a half is 2 over 1, so we multiply both sides by 2 over 1. That becomes 2 over 2x, and this becomes 6 over 1x. We simplify it. That's the invisible 1 that we don't really have to write, right? And the 2 over 2, because the numerator and denominator is the same. 6 over 1 is 6. And we get x equals 6, and we were able to solve it. And because this was a fraction, it was really easy to use that reciprocal, wasn't it? Because our equation became 1/2 x equals 3, and it contains this fraction, multiplying by the reciprocal is easier than that shortcut of using division. If we tried to do our shortcut of using division, this is what it is with the fraction. The reciprocal just lets us multiply straight across, doesn't it? That's easy. If we tried to do it with the division, then we'd have half x divided by a half equals 3 divided by a half. That's just silly, isn't it? That's way more difficult than just multiplying straight across. So in this case, it is easier to use the reciprocal, all right? So remember to collect like terms first, and remember to simplify, because even though you may have the right answer, it'll be marked wrong because you forgot to simplify. And it'll be something silly like you knew what the answer was, and it still got marked wrong because you forgot, okay? So just remember to keep simplifying at the very, very end, all right? So that's how we can use properties of equality in parentheses together. And just remember, combine like terms, then you would distribute, then you would use the additive property of equality, then you would use the multiplication property of equality. And our next video is going to be the next unit, 3.4a, and we're going to talk about equations and expressions, okay? I hope I'll see you there. I hope this was helpful. I hope you're doing all right. Hang in there. We'll make it. Bye.